The ruins are primarily animal-themed, but with a history of the Triforce from an ancient perspective in mind. The designs are symbolic, using dragons, courage, owls, wisdom, and boars, power. And yes, their name is a pun. Zonai is a take on Nazo, a word meaning mystery in Japanese.
The Zonai, a lost civilization from times unknown, which ruins are scattered across the borderlands of Hyrule. A people who by the Hylian and the Sheikah were considered as barbarians, representing a militaristic and dark society where courage was the ultimate virtue. In the Faron province they resided, as the ruins stretch from Faron Woods in the west to the eastern edge of Lake Floria at Ebaria Forest in the east, along the main trade route of the province. Across this humid rainforest we find statues, monuments, symbolizing the key creatures of Hyrule's mythology: the Boar of Power, the Owl of Wisdom, and the Dragon of Courage. But before we move on, quickly press that like button, subscribe, and press that notification bell, and again for all notifications. There, done, back to the Zonai.
Faron in many ways was the province of unexplained mysteries in the legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and one of them ties to the Zonai Ruins to the right east riverbank of Floria River. A peculiar but vast location with gates and stone-carved facades, which feels like a crucial site from a past so distant that it has been long forgotten, but at the same time a place which could once have brimmed with commerce surrounding the houses of warriors and their families. Since the mysterious ruins and structures scattered around Hyrule from times unknown didn't build themselves, they were erected by a long-lasting culture distinct from Hylians and the Sheikah, and who likely had their own main seat of power right here, hidden between the banks of the Dracosa and Floria rivers. It's just that the buildings of this once prosperous capital/settlements of the militaristic Zonai no longer exist after their inhabitants disappeared long before the ancient battle of 10,000 years ago. The only remnants being the heavily ornamented stone columns, statues, and stone gates and walls.
But why here? As this territory is perfect to defend. From all northern sides it is protected by hills, which separates it from the kingdom of Hyrule. To the west, Lake Hylia, and to the east, Lake Floria. Zonai Ruins was a natural refuge, which was likely expanded in order to build a settlement on the flat terrain in the rainforest. A place defended by multiple gates, as you had to pass through 3 of them to reach the main urban center of the Zonai. Yes, there were multiple of them, since there were 2 directions to reach the settlement from, but from here only 1 entrance. You could either arrive from Faron Woods in the west or across the stone Zonai Sarian Bridge in the east. Let's deal with Sarian Bridge first, as in order to reach it you could again travel from 2 directions. Through the eastern gate of Ebaria Forest across the once built in stone Floria Bridge, which now is in wood, and towards Sarian Woods. Alternatively, you could reach the same stone bridge, which looks remarkably like the one seen from Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel's reveal trailer from the shores of Martha's Landing. This is the right moment to address that indeed the civilization of Faron and the one found on the ground in Breath of the Wild 2's reveal trailer is indeed one and the same, with identical columns, ornamentation, wall carvings, and so on. But we want to focus on their surface life before their sudden disappearance. At the same time, we felt we had to bring up the connection of Sarian Bridge and the bridge seen for a second or 2 in Breath of the Wild sequel.
Now, on the western path from Lake Hylia we find the gate of Faron Woods. Actually, this one looks more like a wall, with another kind of urban or more likely military site behind it. Could it be that the Zonai military was stationed in Faron Woods to protect their families and capital? Much like the Hylians had Hyrule Garrison to protect Hyrule Castletown and their families from any attacks from the south. Wait a minute, a possible military stronghold meant to protect from northern attacks. It would have obviously been a defensive post against the Hylians, to whom the Zonai were nothing but brutal and strong barbarians, who wore primitive armor and used dark sorcery to their advantage. Hence the barbarian set and warpaint, which hails the following description. The barbarian helm, a helmet once worn by the warriors of an ancient warlike tribe from the Faron region. The barbarian armor once favored by an ancient warlike tribe from the Faron region. And the same thing goes for the leg wraps. Combined, the barbarian set greatly bolsters your fighting spirit, that being stamina and attack strength, which explains the set bonus charge attack stamina up. This set made the Zonai Barbarian warriors stronger, more fierce, and most of all courageous on the battlefield, the ultimate virtue of the Zonai.
No doubt, the Zonai knew how to defend themselves, but might have accepted some trade as a crucial trade route went through these lands. Along the Zonai Road from Faron Woods, which is littered with Zonai structures and pigheads, through another defensive line, Pagos Woods, to the wooden bridge across Floria River, which likely during the rule of the Zonai was much like Sarion Bridge, built out of stone, not wood, as the Zonai appear to have had great respect for all living beings as spiritual creatures created by the golden goddess of life, spirits, and courage, Faron. And yes, that included trees. It is likely that these environmental barbarians didn't use wood as a construction material, but soulless stones as it did not harm nature. Floria River also marks the border between the regular forest and Hyrule's most unique microclimate, the rainforest found in the Zonai Ruins. Here's the outer gate that protects the inner gate. The importance of this place can be clearly seen by the dragon head statues, which point the direction down a staircase towards the inner gate and the true center of Zonai life and culture. This vast flat terrain was by all means their home, and most likely the capital of the Zonai. Here they had their houses, stores, blacksmiths, and lightning experts who provided the finest shock arrows to the barbarian warriors. With them, and the great courage of their warriors, the leadership was safe.
The area is obviously limited by its western carved cliffs towards Farish Hills, so it's likely that this wasn't a major town but rather a village much like Kakariko village of the Sheikah in Breath of the Wild, with houses but not exactly an extensive network of squares and streets. Here the Zonai lived, crafted their armor, and ruled their tropical primeval land filled with forests, rivers, lakes, and shores. They are the forgotten 8th tribe of Hyrule from times unknown, who fulfills all the requirements to be equal to the remaining 7, having a distinctive culture, their own province, and a main settlement. But what makes the Zonai stand out is how natural and thus wild the entire province is. And this is deliberate, as the Zonai across Hyrule stayed away from technology, preferring sorcery, as they saw it as the natural way, not harming the creatures of Faron, and thus a Zonai settlement right here between Zonai Ruins and Damel Forests would look very different from any other settlements found in Hyrule. To some, this settlement may have been primitive, but that doesn't mean that the inhabitants were not intelligent and skilled. Quite contrary, as they were master builders and stone carvers and masters of electricity. They may not have had the machinery or wisdom of the Sheikah or the numbers of the Hylians, but what the Zonai had was courage and sorcery that turned numbers to shame. Outside of what we've already detailed here about their military, architecture, and main settlement in Faron, there is still very little we know about the Zonai or Barbarians until the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild reveals more on their rise, rule, and eventual fall.
As to the fall of the tribe, it appears to have been sudden. There are several traces that point to that the Zonai was still expanding when the history came to a sudden halt. Perhaps they all sacrificed their lives to seal Ganondorf deep underground, or at the very least this battle caused their numbers to dwindle so much that the Kingdom of Hyrule finally managed to conquer Faron, then force these barbarians out of their land and homes, and then offer them an ultimatum, much like they would later do to the Sheikah, of either being chased away completely or settled down in a different village that can serve Hyrule, say one with a certain swirl on their buildings, and which live their lives as simple fishermen. Yes, Lorelin. But that will have to wait for a different video. The Zonai may be gone or eventually blended out with the Hylians and Lorelin, much like the Gerudo did, but in their case to such a degree that their tribe does not officially exist anymore on the surface of Hyrule. Though who knows, some true Zonai might still be underground. We'll see if that is true or not soon enough. What matters for now is that the structures of the former main settlement of the Zonai of the South are gone. The same goes for the inhabitants, but the stone monuments survived the test of time. And even though the civilian center of the Zonai was crucial, the dragon heads pointed elsewhere, to Damel Forest, and from there the dragon's path along Dracosa River to Dracosa Lake, the main shrine of the Zonai and the Spring of Courage. But in order to find out more about this place, we need to head over to Monster Maze channel, who is covering the religious life and center of the Zonai. But before you head over in our new location-based end card, be sure to leave a like on this video, share it as this video is spoiler-free, subscribe if you haven't already, and after that press that notification bell, and again for all notifications to not miss any of our upcoming Zelda Breath of the Wild theories and Inside Breath of the Wild 2 episodes. A big thanks goes as always to our great patrons, and in particular to roller producer Charles Shash, patreon.com/commonrun. But now, be sure to check out Monster Maze part of this collaboration.